Today, we're going to be diving deep into the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, and we're going to challenge our whole idea of what normal even means. In a world where it feels like illness is everywhere, we've got to ask, is the way we live, our so-called normal, actually healthy? Let's get into it. Okay, let's start right here with this powerhouse of a quote from Dr. Mate. This one idea completely flips our understanding of trauma on its head. It's not about the thing that happened, it's about the wound that thing left inside of you. And that distinction, it's everything. So why is this so critical right now? Well, get this. Back in 2019, over 50 million American adults were dealing with a mental illness. That's more than 1 out of every 5 people. I mean, when that many of us are struggling, you have to start wondering if the problem isn't just us, but the normal world we're all trying to live in. All right, so let's dive into our first section and start breaking down a huge myth. The word trauma is thrown around all the time, right? But as Dr. Mate points out, most of us really misunderstand what it is. And that confusion, well, it can actually stop us from ever truly healing. So that begs the question, right? What is trauma, really? We've all said something like, oh, that meeting was so traumatizing. But Mate makes it super clear. While every trauma is definitely stressful, not every stressful experience is a trauma. And knowing the difference is absolutely crucial. And this is where Dr. Mate gives us this incredible analogy. He says, trauma is a psychic wound. Think about a physical scar. That scar tissue is tough, it's rigid, it doesn't really feel much, and it doesn't grow. That's exactly what trauma does to us on the inside. It leaves us feeling stuck, inflexible, just replaying the same old emotional patterns over and over again. And here it is, laid out plain and simple. This is the big shift. The myth is that the trauma is the bad thing that happened, the accident, the loss, the abuse. But the reality, the truth, is that the trauma is the internal wound you got because of that thing. It's what's happening inside you right now. But here's the best part. This is where the hope comes in. If trauma was the event in the past, well, you can't change the past, right? It would be permanent. But since the wound is internal, since it's a part of you right here, right now, it can be worked on. It can be healed. It doesn't matter if it happened yesterday or decades ago. Okay, so if the wound is internal, that naturally leads us to our next topic, healing. We've all heard that old saying, time heals all wounds. Well, according to Dr. Mate, that's just not true. Time doesn't do anything on its own. Healing is something you do, not something you just wait for. You see, healing isn't what we often think it is. It's not just about making the pain go away. It's about returning to wholeness. In fact, the word health literally comes from an old word that means whole. Trauma shatters us. It disconnects us from our gut feelings, our bodies, our emotions. Healing is that journey of putting the pieces back together. So how do we actually do that? How do we grow? I love this analogy from Mate. Think about a tree. It doesn't grow from its hard, thick bark. It grows from its softest, greenest, most vulnerable tips. And it's the same for us. Our ability to be wounded, our vulnerability, isn't a weakness. It's actually the only place where real growth and healing can happen. We have to let down our guard to let change in. All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about where so much of this starts, childhood. Because Dr. Mate makes a powerful point that trauma isn't just caused by bad things happening to a child. It can also be caused by essential good things not happening for them. So according to Mate, kids are basically hardwired with these 4 non-negotiable needs. They need to feel loved just for being who they are. They need to rest in their parents' love, not feel like they have to earn it. They need to be allowed to feel everything, anger, sadness, joy, without being shamed. And they absolutely need to play. When these things are missing, it's a wound. And this is where our modern world really misses the mark. We're obsessed with cognitive development, with flashcards and early academics. We push play aside. We replace it with screens and scheduled activities. And in doing so, Mate says we are literally undermining the healthy development of our kids' brains. Okay, so this brings us to the final section, and really the whole point of this journey, living an authentic life. But to get there, we have to recognize a really sneaky trap that Mate calls identification. The labels we cling to that actually hold us back from being our true selves. Now get ready for this, because it's a pretty radical idea. Mate says there's no such thing as a healthy identification. The moment you say, I am a doctor, or I'm an artist, or even I am a trauma survivor, you've taken the infinite potential of who you are and squeezed it into a tiny little box. It's a limitation. And that's the real takeaway here, right?
It's about liberation. Yes, you survived your past, but you are not just a survivor. You went through immense suffering, but you are not your suffering. Your authentic self, the real you, is so much bigger and more expansive than any story or label you could ever give it.
And so we're left with this question. It's a big one. If you stripped away all the labels, all the roles, all the stories you tell yourself, if you weren't your job, your past, or even your trauma, who would be left? Who are you really? Answering that, well, that's the path back to wholeness.